They said it was love. That's how it always starts. But real love doesn't make you afraid to speak. It doesn't make you question your worth or keep you walking on eggshells to avoid disappointment. Still, you tell yourself, they just care too much. They're only like this because they love me. That's the trap, because not every "I love you" means affection. Sometimes it means ownership. There's a kind of control so subtle, so emotionally intelligent, that it doesn't need threats or rules. It hides behind concern, it smiles while it suffocates, and it uses your empathy as the leash. In this video, you'll learn how to see through it. How emotional control disguises itself as care, how guilt and affection are used as weapons, and how to recognize when love becomes a cage. Because the most dangerous prison is the one that feels like protection. Think about it. It never starts with manipulation, it starts with protection. They say, "I just worry about you," so you start checking in more often. They say, "I don't like when you talk to them," so you start cutting people off just to make them feel secure. They say, "I only get angry because I care." So you learn to quiet yourself to keep the peace, and you call it love. They don't demand, they suggest. They don't forbid, they advise. They don't punish, they pull away. Every reaction feels emotional, not abusive. That's why you excuse it. They praise you when you comply. They grow cold when you don't, until one day you find yourself apologizing for things that were never wrong. You're not being loved, you're being trained. And the scariest part, you can't tell when it happened, because it doesn't feel like control. It feels like connection. You mistake fear for loyalty. You confuse silence with safety. And little by little, their happiness becomes the measure of your peace. But how exactly does this transformation happen? How does affection turn into control without you noticing? That's what you'll see next. Here's how it happens. Slowly, softly, and almost beautifully. At first, they study you. They learn what makes you feel loved. Attention, words, affection, reassurance. Then they give you all of it. Not because they want to love you, but because they want to define what love feels like for you. That's phase 1, idealization. They flood you with warmth until your nervous system links their approval with safety. When they smile, you relax. When they're distant, you panic. That's not romance. That's programming. Then comes phase 2, withdrawal. Once your body is addicted to their attention, they pull back, just enough to make you chase it. You start wondering what you did wrong. You replay every word, every tone, every look, trying to fix something that isn't broken. That tension, that craving, is the leash tightening. Finally, phase 3, control through guilt. When you start noticing the imbalance, they twist it. "I wouldn't act like this if you didn't make me feel that way. You used to care more." And just like that, your boundaries become proof of your selfishness. They've successfully rewritten the story. You're not being controlled. You're being loved too deeply. But love that demands submission isn't love. It's dependency wrapped in devotion. And the smarter you are, the harder it is to see. Because your mind keeps rationalizing what your soul already knows. This doesn't feel like love. It feels like losing yourself. Here's the truth that hurts before it heals. What you called love was actually control, dressed as care. They didn't want a partner. They wanted possession. They didn't love your freedom. They loved your compliance. They didn't admire your light. They wanted to dim it, just enough to feel taller beside you. And you didn't see it, because it never looked like cruelty. It looked like concern. It sounded like "I miss the old you." It felt like guilt wrapped in affection. That's why it's so powerful, because your mind keeps confusing control with closeness. You think, if they're this jealous, it must mean they care. But jealousy isn't proof of love. It's proof of fear. Fear of losing control. One day, you wake up and realize something terrifying. You've been shrinking yourself to fit inside their comfort. You've become fluent in apology, an expert at emotional damage control. And then the silence hits differently. You stop asking, "What did I do wrong?" and start asking, "Why do I feel small next to someone who says they love me?" That's the awakening. The exact moment when affection stops feeling warm and starts feeling heavy. When you finally see that their love was never about you. It was about keeping you close enough to control, but scared enough to never leave. That's the day their power begins to die. Because the spell of control only works on the blind. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Breaking free from emotional control doesn't start with anger. It starts with clarity. You can't fight what you still call love. So the first step is to name it for what it really was: emotional dependency disguised as affection. 1. Stop romanticizing the pain. You weren't meant to heal them. You were manipulated into believing your worth depended on how much you could endure. Every time you replay the good moments, remember, they were not pure. They were the bait that made the control believable. 2. Reconnect with your internal signals. You learned to silence your discomfort to keep them calm. Now you have to do the opposite. Listen to it. If something feels wrong, it is. Your intuition isn't dramatic, it's divine. 3. Practice emotional detachment, not hatred. You don't need to hate them to be free. You just need to stop negotiating your peace. Detachment isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's saying, "I see what this was, and I choose to stop feeding it." 4. Relearn love through freedom. Healthy love expands you. It allows mistakes, individuality, silence. If someone's love only feels safe when you shrink, that's not love. That's emotional captivity. 5. Forgive yourself for staying. You stayed because you loved. You stayed because you hoped. And there's no shame in that. Manipulators thrive on guilt. Don't give them more of it. Your staying doesn't define your weakness. Your leaving defines your strength, because healing isn't about proving they were wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you never needed their version of love to begin with. Real love never asks you to disappear. It never needs your silence to feel secure. It never punishes your independence or measures your loyalty through guilt. If love makes you smaller, it isn't love, it's control. And once you understand that, you stop chasing people who confuse possession with passion. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. You stop trying to earn the peace that should have been free. You start to see that love doesn't have to hurt to be real. It can be quiet, stable, safe. It can exist without fear. And once you taste that kind of love, the kind that doesn't cage you, you'll never settle for control again. They said it was love, but now you know better. Because real love doesn't erase you, it reveals you. Subscribe to the channel and don't stop at this video. They're still using tricks you haven't noticed yet. The next video will show you exactly how they do it. And once you see it, you'll never see people the same way again.